It's November. This is the Varsity 360 Gridiron Report, and we are able to talk high school football playoffs. How good does that feel? Let's jump right into it, and we'll start with the 6A South, a rematch of two teams that know each other quite well. Riverbend will take the trip up to Forge. This game was close when they played earlier this season. What do you like about this game,
I love all these rematches, first of all. We've got a bunch of them this week. I love those. You know, it's teams that know each other. It's teams that have seen each other. You had punch, you had counterpunch, and now they're going to remix it up and see what's up.
I go the other way on that. I don't like the rematches. I like to see teams that are a little bit unfamiliar with each other tangle in the postseason. So.
Okay, yeah, that's a different take. Yeah. You know, I think the Riverbend Forge, though, is a great one. And I think for a Riverbend team that's battled against a tough schedule, I think it's a pretty good situation for them in the first round. You know, Forge is, of course, very, very good. Forge is very good. But I don't think they're overwhelming offensively. And I think Riverbend is physical enough to sort of, if they can turn it into a slugfest and make it that sort of game.
Yeah, Riverbend, if they don't beat themselves and if they finally find a way to get over the hump in one of these close games, they're nowhere near as bad as their 4-6 record. And I'm not quite sure that Colonial Forge is as dominant as a 9-1 record might suggest. So I think both teams are somewhere in the middle, and I think it'll be another close game.
And these teams may not be in the same situation that they were when they played earlier in the season. So it was week 3 or week 4. I can't remember when it was when the two teams met. Riverbend has went through a nice little stretch there where they were able to beat some teams. Certainly not at the level of competition that Forge is, but it'll be interesting to see how this one plays out. I'm really anxious to see this one. But a number of other good games as well. So we've got practically the whole area from the 5A North that'll be playing.
17 out of 19. Yeah.
17 out of 19, but in the 5A we've got a lot of area schools that are in the 5A, and all but Stafford actually made the playoffs. So congratulations to them. I think in this one, maybe that Atlee Mountain View game looks like it could be an interesting matchup. Two teams that are 7-3 on the year.
Yeah, well, I think you take Massaponax and Halifax, and gosh, you sure like Massaponax in that game.
Yeah.
You know, Brook Point, obviously I've never seen George Marshall play, but you know, you like Brook Point's resume, you like that against Marshall, and given North Stafford and Albemarle's history, you certainly like North Stafford, Albemarle. Mountain View Atlee.
Yeah, Mountain View Atlee, I think that's the toss-up game out of this group. Two very explosive offenses going at it. I think you're going to see a lot of points on the board. Atlee, a team out of Hanover County, so a lot of area people might not be familiar with them, but they do have a quarterback who they might be a bit familiar with, Rashad Harris, who was at Caroline as a freshman and sophomore.
Oh, yeah, I remember that name,
sure. Yeah, he was threw for a lot of yards at Caroline his sophomore year, transferred to Atlee as an 11th grader, and he's the senior quarterback now for the Raiders. So that should be a very, very interesting high-scoring matchup.
Yeah, Rashard Harris, of course, the subject of a great classic Taft-Coghill guarantee that Rashard Harris would be a prolific high school quarterback, and I think he certainly turned out that way. I think that's a good game. Mountain View is certainly going to need its offense moving, and I know that Collison Coffee and Tweedy have both nursed little injuries at times in the last, say, 3 weeks. You know, they're going to want to be full speed for this one.
Yeah, this is one of those matchups I was talking about with two teams not as familiar with each other. It should be a very exciting game.
I think so.
A little bit of everything. At least for this week as the playoffs shape up. Stepping to the 4A East, we've got a couple of rematches, though. Sorry, Taft, but you know it will happen. A couple of rematches of area teams, in fact. So let's start with King George playing Courtland. So King George gets in, but the benefits of that, or the rewards of that, is they get a rematch against the Courtland team that they beat just a few weeks back. I suspect the Cougars are probably going to remember that game and maybe have it in the back of their mind.
Well, I think that's the overwhelming thing is, okay, so which do you like better? On one hand, King George certainly clearly has a game plan that is proven against Courtland that they can do and win, and that's what they're going to be selling all week. Look, we did this, and when we do it this way, we can win this game. So you've got that.
Right.
And then you got Courtland going, if we play like that again, we will lose this game. So where do you like that? You know, which side of that do you want to be on? I think I want to be on Courtland's side with maybe a little more talent.
Yeah, a little more talent and a lot of motivation. I mean,
absolutely.
That was a game they didn't see coming. They were completely blindsided by it, as a lot of people were, and I think they're going to be absolutely fired up, similar to the way they were fired up when they pounded James Monroe a couple of weeks ago.
Speaking of James Monroe, though, King George just got pounded by JM, so they may be a little bit riled up as well. This could be, I mean, there's a lot of storylines that could be at play here.
Who's riled up?
Who is more angry? Yeah, who's got the more bees in their bonnet, as it were.
Yeah,
Do they still say that
I still
often?
tend to lean toward the Courtland side.
You like Courtland in this one? Yeah, it's hard to argue with that.
Certainly. But I think if King George has demonstrated that if they can get into this game, play nearly flawlessly, contain that buck sweep, defend the trap well, they can be in the game, and let's see what happens. And if you can be within one score.
Yeah, I mean, they obviously had the formula that worked. I mean,
obviously, yeah.
Breck Hall, obviously J.C. Hall's brother, who ran the wing T and knew it very well, he was able to implement some stuff that they were able to take advantage of. So, I mean, there obviously is a formula there, but I just can't imagine Courtland losing that game.
Lightning doesn't strike twice, is what you're saying. We'll see. We'll see. That's the beauty of football. But we've got another rematch. Chancellor will be meeting up with Eastern View. Now, this game will be at Eastern View. The game earlier in the regular season was at Chancellor. The Chargers coming away with a pretty handy victory in that one. Cyclone's going to be looking to get some revenge here.
Hard to think of this as a rematch because Chancellor's
looking a lot different right now.
Jason Brown is now on the sidelines. He will be out for the remainder of the season.
Not only Jason Brown, and I spoke to Bob Oliver at the end of the game. He spoke and he said that at this time of year you're going to be banged up, but that team has had a rash of injuries lately on the offensive line and also at receiver. They lost a real key receiver and defensive back with Chris Green, who suffered a broken hand. So it's a different Chancellor team, but one thing I noticed in that Spotsylvania game, they've had kids willing to step up. You had a kid like Cameron Curry step up and catch a 50-yard touchdown catch against Spotsylvania. So they have the people in place that can step into bigger roles. So it'll be very interesting to see. That'll be a game I'll be watching real closely to see how those replacement players do for Chancellor.
Replacement, the next line up.
And when they first played, of course, it was a high-scoring game and lots of offense. And I think now you've got two teams that are going to be counting on the ground game. Chancellor's going to hand it to Mario Wisdom. Easternview's not going to hand it to anybody. They're just going to run straight ahead with Josh Stallings. I think it's a really intriguing matchup. I think it speaks well of this pod from the 4A East that you have two teams like Chancellor and Eastern View, and one of them is going to be one and done in the postseason. Yeah. That's two very good teams. That's two very good teams.
Even with Brown and all those weapons available in the first game, the game turned on a muff punt by Eastern View. That's where the game kind of turned into a rout. So I'm sure Eastern View has that in the back of their mind going forward. So.
No doubt, no doubt. Let's take a look at 3A East. Should we, or how about we now do that now? James Monroe will be taking on Armstrong. You like JM's chances. You get in the playoffs, it's hard to argue against JM.
I have a strong feeling about 8-2 James Monroe against 2-8 Armstrong. I feel pretty good.
Stadium.
At Maury Stadium.
At anywhere, really. Yeah. I mean, you probably could do like that one. Spotsy and Brentsville, though. I mean, this Brentville, excuse me. Brentsville. How do you say that?
Brentsville, and I don't know. I don't know what to think about Brentsville because they're a team that started off the season. They piled up a nice record and they pounded on some not very good schools at all. They piled up 5 wins, and then they came back for them to come back this past week and to beat Culpeper. To me, I really liked Culpeper in that game. I think I said that earlier, and that said something to me about Brentsville. But I like Spotsy. It's like we talked about with King George, that formula where we're going to run the ball well, we're not going to make mistakes, we're not going to turn it over, we're going to avoid 5-yard penalties and things like that, and we're just going to grind it, and maybe that keeps you in a game, right? Yeah,
that's definitely the key, like you said, avoiding those penalties, because I noticed when I saw them play against Chancellor last week, they were behind the sticks a lot, and when you get a team like that in 3rd and 15, 3rd and 12, a team like that, they're not able to overcome that. So if they can stay ahead of the sticks, get 3rd and 5, 3rd and 4, and able to grind and control the clock, then they're able to do damage. But once they start making those little mistakes, they really pile up and kind of snowball on Spotsy.
Spotsy gets like a Michael Shelton 35 carry effort. I think that's exactly what they should be looking for here, and go try to win a 19-13 game or something like that.
One that they just
sure.
Yeah, just to get into a little bit of a
ain't nothing ugly about a playoff win, Mark.
You know what I mean, though, right? I mean, it's not going to look pretty to someone who's watching it, but you grind it out. I think you beat your opponent down, and you get ecstatic
to win that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
I'd be ecstatic for him.
I sounded really sure about 8-2 JM against 2-8 Armstrong. I think Spotsy's got a better than a 3-7 team's chance in this game.
Wow, he's going out on the limb.
I said they have a better than a 3-7.
What have you done with Justin Rice, and can you stay longer? A couple of other games in the 2A. Washington and Lee, 6-4, will be taking on East Rockingham, 6-4 as well. That should be a pretty good matchup there.
Yeah, and Washington Lee, I think they got their quarterback this past. He missed that Essex game, and they lost to a very good Essex team. All of W&L's losses have been to quality teams this year, certainly. And so we'll see they're going to get in the playoffs, and I think have a chance, especially being at home.
Yeah, I like that quarterback-receiver connection, Cullen Bell, Carson Bell, and also Jared Samuel.
Samuel's is a good player at that level, especially. Yeah. And they've got weapons, and they just they're little. They're little up front. W&L is frequently small. They're small up front. They don't want to get into one of those pounding type games. But here you go. W&L makes their 2A East playoff appearance, right? Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. First time. So.
Colonial Beach gets into the playoffs as well. They played a really tough schedule this year. That schedule has earned them a right to play William Campbell.
Chip in a chair. Don't bet against the beach.
I'm not
don't bet against the beach.
But how about this, guys? So 17 of 19 area schools, Fredericksburg area high school football teams make the playoffs. Is this the best year for Fredericksburg area high school football, at least in recent memory?
I don't know if this is as much of a statement for Fredericksburg area high school football as it is a statement against the current playoff system that allows that many teams into the playoffs.
Fair enough, but there were a number of area teams that were beating up on Northern Virginia teams, particularly in Conference 5,
don't get me wrong,
Division 5.
It's a very good area for football. That's not what I'm saying at all, but I mean that high number and that high percentage, I think, might be more of a...
lots of teams go, and that's true, but you look at the teams that have less than good records from this area that have made the playoffs. And you're talking about Spotsylvania, who, yes, is a 3-7 team, but their losses are to Courtland, Chancellor, James Monroe, things like that. King George. Those are good teams they're losing to. You're looking at King George, and their losses are to, of course, Chancellor and JM. I think, in spite of the record, Colonial Beach is another team. Yep. Bad record in the playoffs, but their losses, W&L, Essex, Franklin, Sussex, those are good teams that they're losing to. I don't look at any of our teams and say this is an overwhelmingly dreadful team. Why are they in the playoffs? I think the 12 team, the regions where you've seen them switch to the 12 team formats, better than the 16 team formats. Give those top 4 teams a bye, and then you get much better games when you're playing, 5 through 12, much better games. Massaponax, Halifax.
Yeah, that's going to be a sight to see.
It might be enjoyable for the Ponax fans, and it'll be at Massaponax, so there'll be hopefully plenty of Ponax fans that will be there to see it.
Or it'll be one of the greatest upsets of all time.
I'm not ready to call that. I'm certainly not going to. I will be quite shocked.
You heard it here, folks. Mark Coleman, Halifax is a winner.
But it's exciting for area fans as well to be able to see their team. The chip in the chair, that's the Justin Rice mantra. They're alive, and the season starts all over, fresh and new, and hope springs eternal, and all of those great things.
So you got 17 teams, 13 games. How many winners you got locally?
I'd have to go through it. Have you
10.
You think 10?
I'll take 10.
I haven't gone through it either, but I think it's going to be a good number.
I think it's going to be a big number. I think it's a double-digit number again this week.
Well, certainly there's a pretty fair number that are favored, or at least record-wise.
Well, I think on the surface, first of all, you like either King George or Courtland. You like either Colonial Forge or Riverbend, and you like either Easterview or Chancellor. That's 3.
Yep.
You definitely like Massaponax. You like James Monroe. Now we're at 5. You like North Stafford for sure. You like Brook Point. That's 7. Even if you call Mountain View a toss-up, now you're in 7. You're not that far off from where you're going to be.
Yeah, I like all those 5A North teams, maybe with the exception of Orange having to go up to Stonebridge. But the rest of 5A North, I think, is going to be pretty well represented from the area. So
no doubt. Lots of great games from around the area. Lots of teams still involved. I hope your favorite team is still alive, and I hope that you're able to get out and see at least one of these wonderful Fredericksburg area high school playoff football games coming up this Friday and Saturday.